Hello, everyone. I'm your host of Nature and Science podcast, Don Murphy. We've been away for a while during the summer, and during that time, I founded a brand new company. Yes, that's right. At the young age of 74, I founded a startup, and in this episode, I get to be interviewed by my daughter and producer, Anna Paula Murphy, to discuss how my two-time failure in organic chemistry ultimately led to the founding of our new company, Ky'Orda. So, what does Ky'Orda do? What's the mission? Well, the mission of Ky'Orda is to eliminate the fear and the failure and the anxiety about learning complex subjects like organic chemistry for everyone by creating an education app with a personal guide that uses behavioral science and adaptive technology. I think many of you out there can identify with failing a subject and feeling like you didn't measure up, or even worse, that you just weren't smart. You may have even abandoned the subject before you got a chance to discover how wonderful it was and the wonders of it all. Well, this guided app I will be talking about is creating an entirely new way to learn and may ultimately change the way education is done worldwide. So give a listen. I think you're going to be amazed by the changes I'm proposing.
Today, I'm speaking with Donald Murphy, creator of Ky'Orda, a revolutionary learning app that's taking a completely different approach to teaching chemistry. So, Donald, let's start at the beginning. What personally led you to create this app?
Well, it's actually a pretty embarrassing story. I failed organic chemistry not once, but twice. Not because I wasn't smart enough, but really because I was completely psyched out before I even walked into the classroom.
Psyched out how?
Well, from the moment I considered signing up for that course, I was bombarded with horror stories. Organic chemistry is impossibly hard. It's a weed out class. Only geniuses survive. All that kind of nonsense. So I was defeated before I even opened the textbook. And predictably, I crashed and burned, as I said, twice.
So, what changed? How did you go from failing to creating an app all about chemistry?
Well, I had what I could only describe as an epiphany. I mean, a real live epiphany. I realized that a massive mind game was being played on students like me. The fear, the anxiety, the weed out culture, it was all manufactured. It really had nothing to do with our actual ability to learn. But the epiphany really went deeper than that. I somehow realized that it was all about how I was cosmically connected to the universe and that carbon, like Carl Sagan said, we're the stuff that of stardust. I mean, that's what we are. And carbon came from exploding novas or exploding supernovas. And when I realized that, I mean, it really changed my whole way of thinking about things.
So, what happened once you understood your interest in chemistry in this cosmic kind of context?
Well, once I approached organic chemistry and other so-called impossible subjects with confidence instead of fear, I got straight A's. And that epiphany that I just explained early instilled confidence in me.
Well, that's a huge turnaround from, believing it's a weed out culture to believing that, anything is possible. So, what qualified you to create an educational solution to this problem?
Well, beyond my personal confirmation, I did my PhD studies in physiology and pharmacology. I spent 15 years leading executive seminars at the Aspen Institute, and I've homeschooled my own children. All of that gave me a unique perspective on how learning really works, how it breaks down.
So, you see a blueprint for doing something different for education.
Well, exactly. I begin to see the possibility for an entirely new educational ecosystem, one that builds confidence first, then competence. I mean, we're really creating a whole new paradigm in education. I mean, we're not an online education system or just recreating the classroom online. This is really a different way of approaching education entirely.
So, Ky'Orda has an interesting cosmic angle. Tell me about that.
Well, as I said earlier, and when I had that epiphany, once I understood that we were made of stardust. It went deeper than that personally for me. I mean, it had really to do with the fact that we have a cosmic heritage. And so here's where science emerges from wonder. You've probably heard that old saying, as I've repeated on several occasions, that we're made of stardust. The carbon atoms in your body, in my body, were forged in the heart of ancient stars billions of years ago. And carbon is a fascinating story in itself. Its mere existence is nothing short of a miracle, or what scientists call really fine tuning. And here's the story. Three helium atoms, that is two protons, two neutrons, and two electrons, is referred to in science as an alpha particle. And well, without getting too esoteric about it, when three of those beryllium atoms, is what I just described, come together, it forms carbon 12. And well, here's the miracle and the fine tuning point. It's called the beryllium bridge. Two alpha particles first combine to form unstable beryllium 8, which normally decays in, now get this, 10 to the minus 16th seconds. And to make that real for you, this is what 10 to the minus 16th means. It's 0.000000000000 of 1 second.
Yeah, so a very small amount.
That is, yeah, I mean, it's not just a small amount, it's incomprehensible amount of time. But within that tiny window of 10 to the minus 16th seconds, a third alpha particle has to combine with beryllium 8 during this incredibly small window. And so a scientist named Fred Hoyle first predicted this and was laughed at by his peers until experiments proved him right. And even though he was an atheist, he felt some divine architect was monkeying around, is that a word? Monkeying around with physics of the universe. And there's a lot more to say about this, but that's a story for another time.
And so, how does all that connect to learning chemistry?
I mean, it's everything. When students understand this profound connection, that they're not studying some abstract study or subject, excuse me, some abstract study,
Mhm.
but exploring their own cosmic origins, something really magical happens. Chemistry transforms from a nightmare into an adventure. Fear becomes fascination.
So, is that kind of the foundation of the educational model you're building through Ky'Orda?
I mean, absolutely. We don't just teach chemistry, we rebuild the entire relationship between student and subject. We start with Stardust and guide students on a journey from cosmic origins to mastering organic chemistry, building confidence every step of the way.
So, what makes this different from the other educational apps that might be out there trying to tackle chemistry?
Well, I'm going to go off script in answering that question for a second because, I've really thought about this deeply and it's all about empathy. And what do I mean by that? So usually when a student's in a classroom and being lectured to, there's rarely a connection between the student and the professor. And there's no empathetic feeling with the professor in saying to the students, oh, I've been where you've been. They're just up there scribbling stuff on a blackboard. And so that's what traditional education starts with. They start with this high level and they immediately erect barriers to learning without connecting the students to the wonder of it all that they're actually studying. And so students don't fail a chemistry class because they're not smart enough. They fail because of how the game is designed. And so what I mean by that is that, failing is just a symptom. And what's really going on is that psychologically they don't have the correct mindset and the understanding of they're connected to the very thing that they're learning. And so that failure is just a symptom. And so most educational systems do nothing but, you know, lecture to students. Then the student fails and nobody cares, but we care.
No, it definitely sounds like you're trying to change the method in which students will have the ability to learn in the context in which they'll be able to really internalize the information and understand it. So, what are you doing at Ky'Orda to change the game for these students?
Well, it's education reimagined, where game-like engagement meets cosmic storytelling, where confidence builds competence, and where every student can experience the joy of truly understanding the universe they're made of. And I mean, Ky'Orda is an app that people will be able to hold in their hands. There's going to be an empathetic avatar, if you will, real life person interacting with them very empathetically and starting off basically with saying, look, I've been where you've been. I understand this can be a difficult subject, but it doesn't have to be. Let me guide you through the process. That's where we're going to begin.
So, is this just going to be for students? Do you want educators to get into this? What is really your group that you're trying to get to pay attention to this new app, Ky'Orda?
Well, whether you're a student struggling with chemistry, you know, a parent watching your child battle STEM anxiety, or an educator looking for better solutions or better outcomes to your teaching. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, that a professor is happy with 40 to 50% of his students failing organic chemistry. And a recent discussion I had with the provost at Revelle College at UC San Diego, where I went to school, you know, demonstrated this. He said professors want their students to learn deeply and not just memorize. And he made the point that if you understand a subject deeply and are connected to it, then you don't have to memorize anything. When you get a question or you get on an exam, it's not, you didn't memorize the answer, you know the answer because you've internalized it. You've understood what you're learning.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're really focused on comprehension as opposed to the root memorization, which seems to be such a large part of our education system. So, what are your final thoughts? What does Ky'Orda represent to you, and what's the future of education like this?
Well, it represents turning my failure, you know, if I can make this personal, into everyone else's success and connecting every learner to their cosmic heritage. And that connection to cosmic heritage, even though that might sound a little esoteric, is really what Ky'Orda attempts to do. And through this connection, there's a deeper understanding of why they're learning a subject like organic chemistry or any subject for that matter. And through that connection, confidence will be built, you know, leading to competence and a mastery of whatever the subject matter might happen to be. So you're not just studying the universe, you are the universe experiencing itself. That's really what it's all about.
That is an awesome perspective to have. I mean, it's really important to be able to give not just the facts of where we came from and, kind of a separate, disparate analysis. This is a real kind of connection to where we come from, why this education is important, and how it's the building blocks for life as we know it, but life as we're continuing to experience it.
Absolutely. And Ky'Orda is coming soon. We can't wait to really introduce it to students and get it in their hands. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this brief discussion about my new endeavor, establishing Ky'Orda. We're really in the startup stage right now, but I wanted to give you a little bit more information about Ky'Orda and give you an update. We are legally incorporated as a Delaware C Corp. We've got a clean cap table that's managed by Carta. We've got a great board structure, and the intellectual property that we're using is fully developed, and we have a pending patent for that intellectual property. And we've really also got a great team of advisors with Dr. Dan Ariely. He's a Duke professor of behavioral economics and a best-selling author of Predictably Irrational. He's advising us on the adaptive learning and behavioral change that's important in this learning effort. And then we've got Dr. Zafra Lerman. She's a chemistry education expert, advising on the pedagogy and curriculum. And so that's really important for us. We've also got a lot of traction going already. I mentioned earlier speaking with the provost at UC San Diego, who's helping us get volunteer students who will beta test the app when it's ready. We're going to be building a prototype. And in fact, we're in the process of recruiting a co-founder, chief technical officer, which will be responsible for at first building the minimum viable product, the MVP or the prototype, which is really great. We've got a great pitch deck, which our potential investors can see on our website. And so we're really ready to roll this out as soon as we get the prototype built. And that's just a little bit more about Ky'Orda and where we are right now in the process. But again, go to our website if you want to find out more at Ky'Orda.org. That's KYORDA.org. Well, coming up next, we're going to return to our regular nature and science programming, and we're going to be speaking with Vic Maris. He's a former state park ranger with California State Parks, and he had everything to do with helping to establish the California Desert Protection Act, protecting millions of acres of desert in California. So you won't want to miss that segment. Thanks for joining us, and as always, stay safe, share happiness, and remember, never stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing.